It is absolutely baffling to watch this hurricane response. As somebody that's gone through Sally, Katrina, Aaron, Opal, Ivan, let me tell you, as somebody that was in the United States Army, the logistical branch, the ones that move the heavy stuff to work, everything that these politicians tell you on hurricane response is a blip. It is a complete fabrication. Look, let me tell you something. The United States Army can move mountains, okay? We built massive cities in the desert under fire. And when I look at how these politicians, FEMA, and everything operates, when entire cities are completely gone. If you look at North Carolina, Tennessee, up through Georgia, all the way from the Gulf Coast to Florida, it is absolutely crazy the destruction has happened. Everybody escaped to the mountains thinking you'd be safe in the mountains, and that wound up being the worst place. We got to really starting to think about insurance and America insurance on the Gulf Coast, insurance, Florida home insurance, Georgia home insurance, Tennessee, North Carolina insurance. Here in the state of Florida, they're already talking rumors of insolvency for citizens insurance. You know, the reduced rate insurance that the state can back up saying, hey, you can have home insurance on that house because nobody else will touch it. Well, I got a letter the other day that they were wanting to depopulate here on the Gulf Coast, and I might have to go find other insurance. It's happened to me, and it's going to happen to everybody else. You know, when I saw all these people stuck on top of the mountain, and I was reading the posts on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, about, hey, we came up here to escape the storm, we're in an Airbnb, we're completely shut off, there's no water, no food, no nothing.
Everything on the farm drowned. Couldn't get everything out. We managed to save one horse. The rest of the horses are trapped next to the barn. We cut all the fences so they could try to get out. But everything's gone.
That just, you know, hurt me deep to hear people that not only are they got hit by a storm and there was flooding, they can't leave, they can't escape, and nobody's coming to get them. I sat there for 3 days waiting for the president to say something, the vice president to say something, any of these governors, any of these senators. Let me tell you something. If I was in office and something like that happened in my district, I'd have my combat boots on, I'd have my doggone Levi jeans on, I'd have my people rallied up, and I would be on ground there figuring it out if it was just me and a cell phone. But I see these guys come out in their suits, they come out and everything, you know, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that. Look, let me tell you something. Fort Bragg is not too far from those doggone mountains, okay? These National Guard units are not too far from those doggone mountains, okay? And I'm going to speak a little Army for you because I'm a little fed up about this stuff. They could have marched some doggone engineer battalions out of Fort Bragg and those other military posts right around that area. They could have been there. They could have been staged and ready to go the night before with bulldozers, with heavy equipment transporters, with everything with a blade on it. And they could have had doggone roads refixed in that place in 2 weeks. Do y'all remember the airlift from Afghanistan? You know, that entirely imploded situation that politicians got all of us young guys, our GWAT veterans, into, and they just handed it back. Remember that airload or that airlift campaign of 122,000 people in what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Let me tell you something. If they wanted to get everybody off that mountain in a week, they could do it. Do not let politicians think that you can't do this, okay? Remember that bridge they built to Palestine? Like, look, I went to Sealift. I've been to Sealift Command. I've seen airload possibilities. I've seen how logistically you can do this in the Army at the highest level, at the Division Corps level, okay? They have the ability to fix things. And everybody that is a voter in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, you need to realize, hey, that senator, that state politician, that state governor, and whoever is in charge of federal funding, whether it's the president, the vice president, all of them, this should strike you hard on who you're going to vote for and who you're not going to vote for. Whether the Republican got out there and said something or the Democrat got out there and said something. Because they have the ability to fix all this. Okay, in the state of Florida, I'm going to harp on that one for a second. They've yet to fix the insurance problem. Okay, condos, y'all guys still got problems, okay? The HOA, insurance, for condos is one of the worst things. It is the main problem with why your HOA dues are going up. It is the main problem why, if you own a house in the state of Florida, that you could be looking at foreclosure or any of these problems because your insurance keeps going through the roof. No matter what your rate was you locked in, if insurance triples, still your problem. Georgia, they're going to start asking questions about y'all now because we just had a Cat 4 go right up the gut, okay? Look at this map right here. It just laid waste all the way up to the mountains. Now, let's throw this on top of there. There's going to be a port strike. I think it just happened last night. The politicians have not reported on it. The media has not reported on it. Us YouTubers, the only ones throwing this stuff out there, and you should be furious about the media because the media is lying to you. The politicians are lying to you on both sides. You got to hold them accountable because they can sit there as people have nothing. I mean, people's houses are gone. There's not even a place for them to go back to, okay? Like, it's not like they just left, they come back, the house is all messed up, the roof's gone, they can fix it. No. There's nothing. They're just gonna live on the side of the interstate until they figure out where to go. I'm really passionate about this because I've been through these hurricanes. And then when I sit back and I see what the government can do, as they just sent another $180 million to the Ukraine.
That's why today, we're announcing $325 million in new funding to help repair Ukraine's energy and electric grid. And we'll rally additional support from the G7 plus countries when we have a meeting of the Energy Coordination Group in the next couple of weeks. I'm also announcing today $290 million in new humanitarian support to help provide vital services like safe drinking water, food, shelter,
Where's the rallying for us? Where is the funding for us? Where's the G7 for Tennessee and North Carolina and Georgia? Where are they? Why don't we get any help? They're getting help. Where is the $300 million of taxpayer funding for those that paid it? None for us, everything for them. You know, that's what's really frustrating about all this. And I can already see the people in the comment section below saying, Jack, FEMA, Jack, there's this happening and there's that happening. Look, this is the way it really works on the ground. Most of the people are not going to be able to get FEMA help. Their insurance is not going to cover a lot of this. They're going to have to pay for out of pocket for their food, and everything was destroyed. And all they're asking is for some of that money that they paid in good faith effort to the government to come back to them in a time of need. Time of need. Most of these people don't have flood insurance. They don't have the money to pay for this thing. And there was a humongous disaster. We ask that it comes to us instead of a war in a foreign place, just like it always is, where trillions of dollars are pumped off into the oblivion. We just want it to come back to us. You know, we want it to go to our local law enforcement. We want it to go to the local first responders. We want it to go back to the local area to help us. That's why we paid taxes, to fund us, not some foreign place. Not for their electrical grid to get fixed, not for their road structures to get fixed. They're not even part of NATO. Like, they're not part of anything. And I know they're going to say, well, they applied for, this. And no, we want us. We want us to be taken care of. I want to see Americans getting help. I want to see Americans getting food, water, shelter. I want to see American airplanes and helicopters rescuing Americans. I want to see the money go where it should go. To bomb some more people over there, to being a part of another war over there that nobody really even understands. Most people in the United States can't even point where the Ukraine is. And yet, we've got no roads in Asheville. We've got half of North Carolina destroyed. We've got the Gulf Coast completely ripped in half. Tallahassee, where the politicians are, maybe they'll figure it out now, because that place has been hit really hard. They were able to duck and dive because Tallahassee never really got hit, here in the state of Florida. Never really got hit by a hurricane. It was just everybody else's problem with their insurance. Well, now they're going to have to figure out their own insurance. When their own state-funded citizens depopulates Tallahassee and says, sorry, Mr. Politician, You might have to go find some other insurance. Oh, wait, you can't because your roof's over 15 years old or whatever. Well, hey, not our problem. Remember how they did that to us here in Pensacola, Tampa, Miami, all these other places? Well, politicians, you're going to have to figure it out. So maybe you'll go and figure out insurance in the state of Florida because it's hurting everybody else, and now it's going to affect you. Can't hide behind your gated communities anymore. It's really frustrating about relief organizations. Half of them you can't trust. The other half try to do the best they can with very little. It's extremely hard. I tried raising money for the Hurricane Michael victims. Me and Brant on our YouTube channels launched a campaign and we raised like $10,000. That was the hardest money to ever give away. GoFundMe would not let me just have the money, go down and try to hand it to families on the ground with my combat boots on and give them what they need. Here, hey, go buy some water, go buy some food. We were going to drive down there and try to actually do this. GoFundMe wouldn't give me the money. Then I had to figure out what organizations I could actually transfer the money from GoFundMe. Well, then there was the tax implications. Then there was all the accounting for it. It is so hard to help. And guys like me, we get riled up and we're ready to go down there with doggone John boats and our combat boots and figure this junk out because the politicians aren't going to do it. It is frustrating that it's up to us civilians to save ourselves. That's fine and dandy, okay? But I shouldn't be paying 35% taxes, okay? If the government ain't going to show up with their combat boots on and they're not going to get the boys out of Fort Bragg and Benning and all these other guys, and they're going to say, hey, National Guard, you need to ruck up and go out there and do it. And they don't send them in force. That is the frustrating part. Yes, government got me into this. We expect government to get us out of this, but we have to pay all these taxes because we look to the government to fix all of this. I shared a meme yesterday about not one more dime overseas until our roads are fixed and all this storm wreckage is fixed and we've got all of our problems fixed. Look, I went to the last war and it was a complete mess. The fraud, waste, and abuse was absolutely out of this world. And politicians were just printing more money over there, more money over there, more money over there. The generals were spending it. The insanity of it all is why we are in this humongous amount of debt. This refinancing that constantly happens through inflation. And here we are with inflation going through the roof still. They're telling you it's at 2%. Forget about it. It's not. Go overlay the money supply, the amount of money created versus the S&P 500 and the housing market that went up 50% in the last 5 years. I shared that on the internet and people were startled when you overlay those three on the chart and see it go vertical, okay? All that with this Ukraine war and everything. And what's frustrating about it as a YouTuber, you're not allowed to talk about these things because the algorithm will run you down or YouTube will just straight up send you a message say you can't talk about that, your video's been pulled, or we're going to give you a strike on your channel. All of this is, your freedom of speech is completely silenced unless it fits the agenda. And I'm just kind of fed up with it. I'm fed up with all of this, watching this happen, and it takes the good to try to run for office against the bad and wade through all of the personal attacks and all the problems to be able to just fix something. And then when you get there, you realize the politics are so baffling that you're not going to fix it, okay? The media is in one pocketbook, whether it's left or right, and if you go against either one of those agendas, you're going to get thrown out. And the answer to most of these problems is somewhere in the gray. For most people, they're in the middle, okay? Maybe a middle left. Not really red, not really blue. They just want some common sense on a lot of this junk. And everybody I talk to, they don't want to be tax crazy. They want to be able to send their kids to a nice, good school. And they want to be able to have a house and go on about their lives. But when you see the tax code constantly changing, you see insurance, there's no rhyme or reason to it. You see fluctuations in the housing market that most people, the average person doesn't understand. They just want to buy a house. They don't realize why it doubled in the last 5 years. And And the puppet master is way up top in all of this. And that's what frustrates me, is the memes are there to fix these problems, but they just keep getting worse. Like in my county, my state. Why is my county's school district one of the worst in the state of Florida? And how do those people still have their jobs if it's the worst in the state of Florida? And that's what really gets me. And that's what I feel like the local politics is these, it's like C, D level politicians. And they're just allowed to keep on trucking. And I know I'm gonna get heat for this, but you know what? I don't care anymore. My bills are paid, my taxes are paid, and people need to wake up and say, why are they striking at the port? Okay? Like, why do I have to worry about refrigerated goods and all these things and to feed my family? I wake up in the middle of the night like, oh, they're going on strike. Oh, by the way, there's this humongous hurricane that just hit in the same spot where they're wanting to strike. Politicians have no idea how to fix it, but they created it with all these crazy taxes and payroll taxes and everything the government restricts in its bureaucracy. And these guys at the port really just want to get paid more because they want to feed their families too. But the bureaucracy, the unions, everything that are going on. And if you are in this strike, comment down below. Let's get some Discord going back and forth so we can figure this out. And maybe I'll learn something from it too. I might be speaking out of ignorance on 90% of this. But you know what? At least I'm speaking. And if you disagree with me, comment down below. Let me know. Might learn from you. The people that disagree with you might learn something. Or you might agree with me. Or you might be somewhere in the middle of it. So I appreciate your time to listen to this, me rant of all these things that are going on. But I'm tired of watching people's houses blow away. And then they say, oh, call your insurance. Let me tell you something about this. Maybe we should start thinking about building houses differently. How about that? Concrete structures instead of 2x4s and sheetrock. Plywood, okay? Maybe not build on floodplains. If we do build on a floodplain, you build like this. Now here's the thing. Most of these people up north did not have flood insurance. They're in the mountains, for goodness sake. They never thought that on top of a mountain, my house might wash away. And this leads me to a lot of other questions that are going on. Like, why on top of a mountain did a person's house, wash away? Like, why did that happen? Like, why is it that there was not prep staged? Like, I know in Pensacola, I saw the power truck staging at the fairgrounds the night before. I saw guys ready to go down there. I didn't see, the National Guard lined up ready to go. Email me down below if you know they were. If you were in the Guard and you were there and you were ready to go, did you feel like you had everything you needed to go to save an entire city? Okay? The amount of MREs, bullets, beans, and Band-Aids they could put on target in the military is enough to sustain. They could have airlifted every one of those cities out in 2 days. Because I know one thing, they're uttering that Citizens Insurance could be insolvent. Absolutely, that could be a thing. They depopulate them because they're going insolvent. If we got one more hurricane this year in the state of Florida, that's all, folks. They're not paying you out. They would have to go bail out federally the insurance. Because I know one thing, the politicians in the state of Florida haven't got it figured out. I just listened to them for an hour talk about, I don't know what they were talking about. I don't even know if they have insurance on their own house because they could not actually talk about what the insurance problem was. And the media that interviews these politicians should be ashamed of themselves. These journalists don't know enough about what they're interviewing to pressure down these politicians. If you got me in front of them, put me in front of one of those politicians and it'll look like the fireworks on 4th of July. Because I will be shooting it at them so fast that they better know the topic, especially real estate and insurance. Or they're going to look like an absolute idiot. And that's why they'll never get in front of me. That's why the media will never put me on that show. That's why they'll never put anybody other than somebody they know what they're going to say in a room with one of those politicians during election season and ask them some really hard questions. Like, why do we not have some of these really loudmouth internet, YouTube media people interviewing some of these politicians right before elections? They won't do it. They're pressers. their chief of staff, their staffers will get in front of you and say, you can't say this. We need a list of questions beforehand. They need to be able to do this. They're not going to let you say, how are you going to fix insurance in the state of Florida? Tell me right now. Don't tell me this round in a circle answer. I want to know how you going to do it. How are you going to solve those people on the top of North Carolina? I know for one thing, I'd have had those engineer battalions ready to go, son. Every bulldozer up on top of one of those heavy equipment transporters lined up to the sun, because we're coming. And every one of those soldiers would have been motivated to the T, because they're going out to save some of their fellow United States citizens. And they would have been happy to do it. Instead of thinking about going to the Ukraine or going to Syria or going to Iraq again, because one of the bases that we gave to the Iraqis just got overrun and we're back there for the 10th time. Why don't we go save our own people? That's really all I got to say about this. I'm fired up. I just drank my cup of coffee, and maybe on the next video we'll be a little cheerful, but I want y'all to get riled up. Ask some doggone questions. And that's all I got to say about that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.